Welcome to the transparency. I was muted. This is part 3. This is a supplemental report, 75 through 135. This is Florida versus Shanna Gardner. This is another Florida case, murder for hire Florida case, with Jose Baez back in the courtroom on a high-profile case. We're going to take a quick clip here to remind us all what this case is about, and then I will jump right into episode 3 of the supplemental reports. Again, this is the complete investigation into how they came to accuse Shanna Gardner, Mario Saldana, and the shooter Henry Tenon. In this episode, we will hear from Sterling Gardner and Shelley Gardner, the parents of Shanna Gardner. They were interviewed through police investigations, interrogations. Let's take a look.
In February of this year, 33-year-old father Jared Bridegan was gunned down in front of his 2-year-old daughter. It's a murder that stunned Jax Beach neighbors, which have rallied behind his widow and 4 children. Now, some tabloids have cast suspicion on his ex-wife, Shanna Gardner. Those tabloids followed and photographed her and questioned her innocence.
And Gardner has not spoken publicly to anyone about Bridegan's murder until now. And tonight, in the only TV interview she says that she will be doing, Action News Jax Kristen Rary has the exclusive interview with Gardner.
As her innocence has come into question, Shanna Gardner spoke to me in the only TV interview she says she'll be doing to tell her side of the story.
I do want people to understand, where I'm coming from.
Almost 5 months after Jared Bridegan was murdered in the street in front of his 2-year-old daughter, we spoke with his ex-wife, who has not commented publicly so far. Our first question: why have you stayed silent?
I was asked to not talk to the media or give a public statement, but with the level of speculation, I felt that now it was necessary to speak out.
Shanna Gardner revealed she was asked by Jared Bridegan's widow, Kirsten, not to speak publicly, but we wanted to know how the relationship could have gotten to that point.
I'm sure you would say that we've had happy moments. I mean, we share the 2 most beautiful children in the world.
In 2015, Jared and Shanna divorced. Their court records, which we obtained from the St. Johns County court system, revealed a long, complicated process lasting over 5 years.
Anytime divorce comes into any situation, it's messy. It just is. I will say that I think that we both love our kids.
Jared and Shanna both wanted full custody. The court file details allegations of spying, deceit, and more. In the end, Shanna and Jared reached an agreement. They shared custody, and whenever the children were at one parent's house, the other would come over Wednesday and have a date night. That's exactly what Jared and his twins did the night he was killed.
It was actually one of the things. Sorry. I remember my son tucking him in and him saying that it was a good date night.
But that happiness would end just minutes after leaving Shanna's house just over 2 miles from her home. In a quiet neighborhood with few security cameras, a tire was rolled out into the street. Jared got out of his car to move it and was shot dead. His 2-year-old daughter sat in the car, strapped into her car seat alone for 3 minutes before someone came to help.
I was shocked. I fell to the floor because I was devastated for what I was going to have to tell my kids.
Jared died in that street, leaving behind 4 children and a heartbroken family.
They were, I think, in shock.
Later, in a blog post, Shanna's mother said she was not invited to the funeral. I asked Shanna about the situation.
His family did not invite me or want me there.
But the day before a vigil hosted by Jared's widow at Celebration Park, Shanna was photographed at the park with her kids by the tabloid Daily Mail.
Talk about a violation of privacy, because my kids know that they were photographed. And they were worried.
The tabloid presented the facts in a way that leave room for speculation about Shanna having a role in Jared's death, citing their rocky divorce papers and her absence from the funeral.
Even though we didn't always get along, he was still the father of my kids.
So I asked Shanna the question.
Did you have anything to do with Jared's murder?
No, I did not have anything to do with his murder.
Shanna says she has no idea if the murder was targeted or what Jared was involved in, saying they ran in different circles. But Action News Jax reported in June, Shanna had hired criminal defense attorney Hank Cox.
He was referred to me by several friends, and ultimately, my kids' images and videos were being used in the media without consent.
Shanna said Cox was hired to protect her kids. I asked her if she thinks she will face criminal charges. She says no, that she's cooperated with detectives.
Do you have any idea who might have done this?
I do not have any idea. As I said, we've been divorced. We don't run in the same social circles. All I know is that I would never want anybody to go through this.
She told me if she could speak to Jared again, she'd say one thing.
Honestly, that I wish it weren't like this. I wish things could have been and could be different.
And Shanna told me despite this happening in her neighborhood, despite many people around her discussing the case, she has no intention of leaving Jax Beach or Jacksonville.
All right, so that was a recap of 2022. Here we are, 2024. But we're going to take us back to Hector here and to pick up where we left off, which is hearing from the reports, straight from the reports. Let's go straight to the facts. And Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. So again, you have your homicide January 29th, 2022. So we have May 11th now. The first interview conducted with Shelley Gardner, the mother of Shanna Gardner. At approximately 1100 hours, the interview with Shelley Gardner was conducted. We began talking about their trip from Utah and the recent purchase of their home here in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. She was asked to tell us about Jared. Shelley stated she was here on business and met him while they were dating. She stated she wondered why they were dating because they were so different. She stated he was quote unquote super shy. However, she just assumed it was because opposites attract. She stated she put her concerns aside and encouraged them to love and support each other. Shanna is a very free spirit, and Jared was very reserved and somewhat rigid. Jared wanted Shanna to act and dress in a certain way. She was then asked how was their marriage. She said Shanna made excuses for a long time, and she did not realize how bad things were between them. Jared was always in his room, especially when the twins were born. He did not help with the kids unless he had to. Jared had some odd likes and dislikes, such as he did not like mirrors in the house anywhere, and they were not allowed to have pictures in the house with people's faces. She did not think Jared was at all physically abusive, but would raise his voice at Shanna. She stated they were all at an event in Orlando and were planning on going to the parks for a day. However, Liam, because they have twins, he got sick. They all came back to Jacksonville. This was around the time that Shanna had announced her intentions to get divorced. She stated it was just Jared, Shanna, Sterling, and her in the room. Jared got angry and commented to Shanna, you need to be punished. You get to be married to me. It seemed almost as if Jared forgot her parents were there. She stated Sterling, that's her husband, Shanna's father, stood up and said something to Jared, which ended that encounter. It's a little bit clearer. She stated it was rare Jared would be around. They typically came over for Sunday dinners, and he would leave very reclusive and would always leave when he got the opportunity. She stated that as a family, they would try to get him to open up, but he never would. She stated that they all thought things would get better after the divorce, but it got worse. She was asked if Jared did not want the divorce. She stated she didn't know, but she also did know why he would want to stay married because it was not much of a marriage. Shelley felt that Jared was the Old Testament type, where women were required to be subservient and were treated as property. She stated after their divorce, Jared refused to talk to Shanna and would only communicate via text or email. And he would never allow any of the people he dated to meet Shanna. Jared told people they all knew that Shanna cheated on him and that is why they were getting a divorce. However, she stated people came up to her late and stated they get it now and that Jared may not have been the person he pretended to be. Shelley stated there are several comments out there that are misleading and hateful. Again, this is Gardner's mama. She stated she now has to moderate what comments go on her blog. She has a blog. She said people only know the partial truth and not the other side. She was asked if there was any contention between them and money Jared got from the house or for his app. She stated there was no contention between them, but she felt that Jared got used to a lifestyle that was taken from him. She stated they loaned him money, but did not expect to get it back, and that they were okay with that. She said she did not feel the money was worth quote unquote hard feelings. She stated she tried to get Shanna to let it go, and they would be willing to help her out financially. She stated there was no animosity, even though he got hundreds of thousands of dollars from them. She stated that there may have been some animosity on Shanna's part, but that they told her just to let it go. However, Jared did attempt to take them to court. Yes, Shelley and Sterling, to get more money because he wanted to continue the lifestyle he became accustomed to. Shelley was asked what she thought about Mario. She stated she thought it was weird at first, but they got to know him and they liked him a whole lot better than Jared. She stated they were good for each other because Mario brought in some structure. Shelley said he might have been a little strict, but he was good for the kids and for Shanna. Shelley said that she does know, that they are getting divorced, but they will always like Mario. She stated they have never really had a typical marriage, but that they are really good friends. She stated Shanna thinks that they are going to remain really good friends, but she thinks that they will both move on. She stated that Shanna is just very trusting and good-hearted. However, she thinks Mario is ready to move on and does not want the commitment. She stated Mario is a private person and does not want anyone to know his business, but he is good. She stated that this will be another loss. She then mentioned they were unsure what direction to move in due to Jared's death. She stated Mario is, quote unquote, Johnny on the spot with helping around the house or with the kids. She stated it was obvious they love each other, just not in the usual way, more like a friend. She was asked if she knew which one wanted the divorce, but she did not know. She stated she knew Mario initially pursued her daughter. She said that their marriage was always more of an arrangement versus falling in love. It was more they are great friends and they can live under one roof and help with the kids. She was asked if she ever told her daughter to get married, to which she stated, no. You can't ever tell Shanna what to do. I would never say to do this because she would do the opposite. She said she had a feeling as a mother they would get married. She was asked if Shanna nitpicked during the divorce. She said she did it with her as a daughter, but she was not sure if she did it with Jared. When they were still in Connecticut, remember they went to Connecticut due to Liam's heart condition, She stated she would often try to get Shanna to see a different perspective because she always felt divorce was the last option. However, looking back, she felt that was likely bad advice. Shelley stated she had very little communication with Jared after the divorce, except for the occasional text from him telling her to get her daughter under control. She was asked if her daughter wanted full custody of the kids. She stated sure, but she never fought for it. Shelley tried to get child support since he was living in Utah, and she was raising the kids on a day-to-day basis by herself, and that is 100% true. I have the paperwork. He left and went to Utah, and so he only saw the kids once every other weekend if he made it in for a flight. He went there for a job. She said, if anything, it was concerning because the kids would often come back dirty or unfed. I highlighted that because I thought that was interesting. She stated if they thought about it, they should have offered Jared money in exchange for full custody of the kids. She said Jared was always just about the money. She felt that if they offered him money, he would have given up full custody of the kids. Jared was also vindictive, and money was super important to him. She was asked if they had a prenuptial agreement. She stated both Jared and Mario have one, but she did not know the particulars. Shelley was asked if she knew anyone who would want to do this. She stated, no, I don't. I don't like him, but I wouldn't want this for him. She stated he didn't have a lot of friends, but she did not know him to have any enemies. She said the media is ripping on Shanna, stating that they must have done it and that they must have paid for it since they have money. She further stated that a comment on one of the forums she was reading suggested maybe he treated his family poorly and he realized he needed to change, but the person the media is portraying is not the Jared they knew. But they did not know why this would happen. But she has theories, as everyone does. She stated it was weird that Jared had money to pay off his house because Jared never had any money, implying that maybe he was into something sinister since he had the money to pay off the house. She mentioned that there were a few times in school where he passed off work as his own, but was not his work. Shelley was asked if she was ever bothered by Mario's criminal past. She stated she was not, and that she has always been trusting and forgiving. However, maybe she does not know as much about it as she thought. So that was the first interview with Shelley, the mother. Now, again, no attorney was present. She just talked. Mrs. Shelley, Shanna's mother, on May 11th, talked openly to investigators. No attorney. Or let's put it this way. If there was an attorney, it's not being mentioned. Now, back to back, after this started at 11, so this is at 12:20, so an hour and 20 minutes later, that's the gist that they write about that interview. Now, obviously, there has to be a lot more said, you can imagine, but we don't have that tape. So we'll move on here to right after that is her dad's interview. Again, welcome to Truth and Transparency. This is part 3 of going through the case so that you guys can be fully aware or refer back to this if you have any questions, as well as I will be constantly referring back to, I'll be putting together my own little timeline for easy access. Let's take a look. Let's get in a little closer here, make it clearer. And I'll tell you my opinions afterwards on these 2 interviews. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. At approximately 12:20 hours, the interview with Sterling Gardner was conducted in the soft room. Soft room. Again, Detective Lamont and your other detective. Sterling was asked about when Shanna and Jared first met. He stated that Shanna did not like Jared when she first met him. He called her a dog, which he stated he later learned that was supposed to mean you were good looking. What? Then they were getting married. He stated they came out to Utah, but he never really got to know Jared because every time he tried to ask him questions, Shanna would always answer. He stated that they have a trust set up for each of their sons-in-law so they can focus on getting an education and not have to worry about living expenses or education costs. He stated Jared was found to be outsourcing his homework during school. He stated Jared was often isolated and he would always sneak out of family dinners. Sterling stated that he would go do projects at their house and Jared would never come out, but would just stay in his office the whole time. So again, this is Sterling said that he would go do projects at their house, here the dad, and that Jared would never help, basically like doing house projects. He stated during dinner he noticed Jared wearing a ring. He asked him about it, and he was told it was a Freemason ring. He stated Jared spoke for over 20 minutes about it when typically you can't get Jared to speak at all. He stated Jared was very motivated but preoccupied with money. Sterling stated he would go over and shovel the snow from their driveway and porch, and Jared would never come out and help. He stated they were together just after Shanna had announced that they were getting divorced. He stated Shelley was trying to talk them into trying to work it out when Jared stated, "You need to be punished. You get to be married to me." Sterling stated he addressed Jared, who immediately backed off, and that ended the evening. Sterling stated he made arrangements to buy out Jared's half of the house. So remember how the wife was talking about how'd you get the money, okay, to buy that house free and clear? Because all that the family gave was, here, we're going to buy you out of the house that you guys are all in. So here you go, here's that money. And so then he would move out, and then you would take that money and then obviously go buy a house with that. But what they're basically trying to say is that wasn't enough to buy it outright. So there we go. Now, again, Sterling stated he'd made arrangements to buy out Jared's half of the house. He stated Jared remained pretty belligerent. He felt Jared was set on making his daughter's life miserable even after the divorce. However, he stated they were both pretty fiery at times after the divorce. Sterling stated that they had made arrangements to go visit Kirsten and take her a care package. This would have been after the murder. However, while they were on their way, Kirsten asked them not to come. However, they asked if they could go just briefly. He stated they stayed in the truck while the kids played in the yard. He stated Kirsten's mom came over and exchanged a few words. He also stated Kirsten asked them not to speak to the media, and they have always respected it. Sterling was asked if there was any contention over the house. He stated they helped them get into the house, so like their original house that they bought together as a family. And he paid Jared $400,000 for half of the house once he left. So $400,000 is a pretty good chunk of money to go ahead and, put down in a house and possibly be able to pay it all off. But now he stated Jared attempted to sue them. He felt it was to get money to maintain the lifestyle they showed him. He was asked if there was a prenuptial agreement. He said yes, but it was to protect their business. He stated there was contention over child support and where the kids would go to school. This is correct. He stated every time Jared could needle her, his daughter, or control her, he would. He was asked if either of them were fighting for majority custody. He stated not that he was aware of, but everything had to be very specific, as in their custody agreement. Sterling stated that during mediation, the mediator came out and offered his daughter full custody in exchange for payment, allegedly. He was asked if he maintained life insurance on Jared. He stated he has life insurance policies on all of his son-in-laws for $100,000. However, it lapsed about a year ago. He still maintains policies on the others. Sterling was asked what Jared was like on family vacations. He stated, very isolated. He stated they went to Cabo one time and Jared stayed in the hotel room the whole time. He was asked what he thought about Mario. He stated he's an interesting guy. He's more talk than anything else. He was asked what he meant by that. He just said he has an answer for everything and he is the military type. However, he has been good for the kids and for her. He asked if he ever saw any issues between Mario and his daughter. He said they both have strong personalities and he was raised one way, very strict, and Shanna was raised our way. However, Shanna always had the last word on how to raise the kids. He was asked if there was any contention with the people Mario had staying at the house. He said there was not an issue. It was just people Mario was helping out. All righty. So, Shanna Gardner's mom, Shanna Gardner's dad, their first interviews coming May 11th, which is you got February, March, April, May, so about 3 months and 11 days. They don't really know the guy. I will say, I think that it's odd if that is true for any guy out there. If your father-in-law is coming over and he's doing all of your like shoveling, or like landscape, things like that. I don't know. I can't imagine my dad coming over to my house and my husband sitting in the house and letting my dad do that. A, at all, but even B, like by himself to not help out. If that isn't even in fact true. Again, have no reason to think these people are lying at all. As far as the divorce goes, so I talked about this back in the beginning. People think that the divorce is going to come out and it's going to be some like crazy, like cast this horrible light onto Shanna Gardner. It's not. I read through every single page. It's repetitive stuff. When you hear like 900 and some pages or something, it's not. In fact, Jared left. Jared left and went to Utah. And she did like just a 1v1 deal with him and let him come. They had like a temporary arrangement and it wasn't even in writing. And it was, okay, he went to, work in Utah. And then every other weekend he was coming and that was like his weekend to be with the kids. Again, then when she wanted to get child support because she was basically taking care of them the whole time, that's when he threatened to quit his job and move back, and he actually did that. So I don't think that this divorce is going to be shedding horrible light on her at all. Like I said, I read through it. I don't see that happening at all. We'll come back to that. Obviously, they're talking about money a lot, and that they don't know much about Jared. They were opposite, and the most conversations you're going to get out of Jared was Freemason, so I highlighted that. Moving on to the investigation. Then, let's go like this. We would be to report here 88, and they'd be putting into like custody with this is when they're doing, okay, they do their next interview here, which is Brent Parish. All right, so when I'm doing like this timeline, we're going to start getting into people that are going to become interesting characters. What's today? With that said, Parish was somebody who knew Mario. So he wanted to talk to somebody that knew Mario. And right here, he said that he met Mario through another worker, Hector, and he hired him to do maintenance around the gym. So this is how Shanna Gardner and Mario met, was at that gym. Parish was asked if he had a male by the name of Josh that worked for him. He stated that didn't ring a bell. He stated he owns a roofing company and he can't remember all of his employees. He stated Mario and Shanna met while they were both working at that gym. He stated he worked together with Mario regularly while they were building out the new gym. He stated he met Shanna and then they stopped coming around the gym. He said Mario was hard working. He worked for him and he would also work for a security company in Miami. He stated it was a private security company who escorted people who flew into Miami. So Paris called his bookkeeper. He asked her if a Josh ever worked for them. She said it was Josh Nunez, yes, and his last address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. He was asked if he would provide contact information for Hector. He said Hector did not really hang out with Mario. He said he did not realize at first the connection between Mario, Shanna, and the victim until he was working out with a friend. His friend Jacob at the gym, and he said, "So, do you think Mario did it?" He said it, then clicked for him. Jacob Lucas. He was asked, did Mario ever say how he afforded his Porsche? He said Mario was getting disability from the military and was trying to get 100% disability. He stated he had to be a little careful even working for him. He also had the side security job in Miami. He stated he was also trying to get Shanna to be his caretaker so she could get money from the military as well. He was asked if he ever got the impression their marriage was a business relationship or legit. He stated he thought it was legitimate. He said he has not talked to Mario since August 2001 via text. So we're asking a guy here to talk about something 2001. Okay. So then the next thing that they go and do is on May 16th, they photographed the latest vehicle for insurance purposes. I photographed the exterior and interior of the vehicle. That was something that they did with which vehicle did they do that with on that day? It was insurance for Progressive. So I believe that was Jared's. Okay. So here we go. Now, May 12th, subpoena. Now, this is John Biggerstaff. Now, we're going to have to follow this closely because John Biggerstaff becomes an important part, and let's find out why and how. Crack open something to drink for you guys. Now, there's a subpoena for John Biggerstaff's financial records were served to Capital One. Now, remember back the stuff that we had been reading, John Biggerstaff's name came up based off of the cell towers, if you guys remember. So I want to go ahead and how I believe, again, this is just my opinion, but so I believe that they were able to obtain this based off of the cell towers, his phone number. Okay. Because let's find out who the hell this is and why they picked this guy to serve a financial records. Again, also this name, he was flagged with like the FBI, and I think that's about to come up. So Capital One responded and stated they were not able to locate an account for the subject. So they did to serve Capital One, Regions Bank, they did a credit union, and then Navy FCU. A review of the search history and Chrome activity provided via the Google search warrant revealed Biggerstaff searched for a 10mm Glock pistol and 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol on January 26, 2022 at 1:15 in the morning. He then visited guns.com and viewed details about a Glock 20 Generation 4 10mm pistol. Screenshots of the search history have been attached to this report. A subpoena was served to guns.com to see if there was any purchase history from Biggerstaff. Now, the reason this is important is because remember the shooting here, and I believe that they're looking for a 10mm pistol. Okay. Again, I believe that this came up on the cell towers, okay, in the area. We'll go back and we'll double check, but that's how I believe that they were able to obtain these warrants. Now, further searches of the media files appear to show Mario Fernandez Saldana engaging in sexual activity with Maria Biggerstaff at the Biggerstaff residence. And then this is where I find out that they are swingers. So welcome Friday. Let's go out with a bang. Welcome. Swinging. We're swinging. A request was made. So based off of them being able to get this search warrant. So if they were never able to get this search warrant, they would have never got this information. Okay. So for Mario's team with the defense, you want to look into this search warrant and everything that goes with this guy and all the search warrants they got for him. Okay? Because this guy, right here, because of the search warrants they were able to get, further searches of the media files from this guy's phone appear to show Mario Fernandez Saldana engaging in sexual activity with Maria Biggerstaff at the Biggerstaff residence. Okay. So what it showed again is Mario. There's pictures and videos of Mario and Maria on this man's phone. A request was made to the court programs of North Florida LLC to provide GPS information from Michael Swapsy's court-ordered ankle monitor. The date will be attached to this report. Again, a new name. Swinging, baby, swinging. All right, so they put in evidence that day. Biggerstaff region. So this is all to do with his search warrant. Now we're into June. Okay, so this was May 12th, May 19th, June 13th, a month later. So nothing is going on in this murder investigation. No reports are done in a month period. Okay, you want to write that down. So from May 19th to June 13th, no reports. It's a pretty big gap for a live investigation. A return for John Biggerstaff's Regions Bank was received and will be attached to this report. We are still waiting on returns from the from USAA and VSTAR. Okay, and so then we're moving on to now supplemental reports 93 to 119. This is your juice. Okay. Thursday, June 16th at approximately 5, Brad Beard arrived at Jacksonville Beach Police Department in order to conduct an interview. Okay, here we go. Who's Brad? Bradley Edward. This interview with Beard was conducted at the Jacksonville Police. Okay, Beard began the interview explaining how and when he knew Shanna Gardner. They didn't spell her name right. Beard advised, who did this report? Bird advised he owns a tattoo studio. Okay, this is kind of important. All right. Here we go. Back this out a little bit. This is going to be a guy that's going to be testifying for the state and saying that Gardner talked about killing her husband. This is a tattoo artist. Okay. Bird would go on. He advised he owns a tattoo studio. He was able to recall specific dates because of paperwork documenting Gardner's appointment. So we know that Shanna Gardner's tatted up. Beard stated the two became friends because he could relate to her Mormon background because of his time in Utah. Bird would go on to explain he remembers Gardner because of what he called the downfall of a Mormon girl. Okay. After Gardner got familiar with Bird and his employees at the shop, Bird stated after a tattoo session, Gardner invited several of the employees out for drinks. Bird advised during this time, Gardner would talk too much about her divorce with Jared Bridegan. During this particular incident, Gardner informed the group her life would be easier if somebody would shut her husband up. Bird stated Gardner asked the group if they knew anyone who shut people up. Bird advised at that point he did not take it to mean anything at the time. Bird would later describe Gardner as emotionless. Bird would go on to explain he has had no contact with Gardner since August of 2015. Very, very important. This was said, okay, August 2015. This allegedly being said when they're all out drinking. Okay. After the night where Gardner asked about shutting her husband up. Beard did not have much contact with her. Beard would go to explain he did not know the details of this murder when it was originally reported. Bird recently read an article and recognized Gardner. Beard stated in the article he read about an incident where Gardner was accused of placing cameras in her home. Beard advised Gardner would talk about this while at the tattoo shop. As Beard talked about the divorce, he stated there was clearly animosity between Gardner and Bridegan. Bird would go on to explain that there were arguments over the kids and her status as a Mormon because she left the church. Jared wasn't happy about that, but he also didn't want her at the church. Didn't want her to have any friends at the church. So that's kind of like a really interesting situation. Beard stated he never met Bridegan or knew him in any ways. He can't spell new. He can't spell Shanna Gardner. Okay. You really need to watch out for this. Never trust a guy with two first names. Detective C. Johns. Johns is a first name. Always remember that in life, guys. And that was the end of that interview. So again, a name that will be testifying, no doubt about it, for the prosecution will be Bradley Edward Beard. Again, though, that happened in 2015. Now, on June 28th, Lamont met with ASA Christina Stifler. Christina Stifler's all over a bunch of documents right now. The ASA asked Elizabeth Smith to come in to the Fourth Circuit to provide a statement recounting her experiences with Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez. These statements were provided earlier to detectives, but she did not want to be identified at the time. Smith recounted the following. So at first, she did not want to be identified. Elizabeth Smith. Okay. I think we should put that down. She contacted a family friend who is an ATF agent. She stated she also worked with Shanna Gardner in 2015 at a school. She stated they developed a close personal friendship and that their families would often spend time together. Smith stated while they were working at the school, Gardner relayed to Smith, Mario offered to get 4 guys and break into Jared's residence in the middle of the night and take care of him and nobody would ever know, end quote. Smith also stated one evening while out with dinner, Smith and Fernandez had a disagreement over how to handle her child. During this encounter, Fernandez said to Smith, you know I've killed people before, which she took as a threat. Smith finally recounted Gardner walked in on Fernandez taking nude photos of an unknown female and also getting erotic messages. Smith stated Gardner told her she only married Fernandez because it would look better in court for custody reasons. If she was married, also her parents would give her more money if she was married. This concluded the statements. Okay, and again, this is actually a complete contradiction to what her parents said in the interview, which is, we'll give you more money, you know, to be single. Now, so again, you guys will be hearing from Elizabeth Smith by the state. Next up, July 7th. While reviewing materials returned through search warrants and subpoenas, it was discovered Mario Saldana left the state on an unexplained trip out of the state. Now, so they're going through stuff, and remember how Mario and Shanna Gardner had their interviews on March 1st. Their first ever interviews were March 1st, 2022. Okay? Now, it was discovered because they were going through all their stuff because they had, you know, got subpoenas and warrants. And so they found out that Saldana left Florida and made stops in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, before driving straight through to Pennsylvania. What the fuck is with everybody going to PA? Think about it. Everybody's in Pennsylvania. After spending a little over a day in Pennsylvania, Saldana then returned to Florida. This trip consisted of 6 days and lasted from March 2nd to March 6th. So the murder, you know, January 29, 2022. So that's that. Right literally after meeting with the police. And they're trying to say that this was an unexplained trip. Unexplained. Which I think it's interesting wording when it's saying unexplained. Like, did they ask him in his interview, like, are you planning on going anywhere? Like, what do you mean unexplained? So this trip, again, consisted of those days. Saldana conducted his first interview with Jacksonville Beach Police Department on 3/1. Abigail and Liam conducted interviews with the Child Protective Team on 3/4. So he wasn't even there. Now, Saldana made the following stops. So this is what they were able to do because they were tracking. So he went to Brunswick, Georgia, Pooler, Georgia, never heard of it, Florence, South Carolina, Clinton, North Carolina, Chesterfield, Virginia, Fredericksburg, where? The fuck? That has to be a typo. And then Tarleton, Pennsylvania, Morgantown, West Virginia, Columbia, South Carolina, because they're on the way back. I think that's supposed to be VA or PA. You know what I mean? That has to be a typo. These people need to get together. Okay, so due to the timing of the trip in relation to the interviews, this unexplained trip was investigated further. Okay, so several days prior to this supplement, a tip from Crime Stoppers made us aware of a truck in Gaffney, South Carolina, which matches the suspect's vehicle in this case. This is a tip from Crime Stoppers. So they write this down. Again, guys, this is going to be a typo because, you know, it's a typo. But this is really important. Again, we're trying to figure out how they got to somebody. Right here, they're saying they got this tip from Crime Stoppers, okay? Anybody could just call in, right? So who's this tip? That's going to be very, very important. Were they able to, because all the detectives and people I know in law enforcement that I've talked to say there are so many ways you're going to know who did this. Okay. So we got a big old fat Sharpie for that one. It's really, really important. Now, at approximately 500 hours, Detective Burrell and I left Jacksonville Beach and headed toward South Carolina to investigate the above listed Crime Stoppers tip. At approximately 7:30 hours, a stop was made. So they went to these places. But now look at the day that they did this was July 7th. Okay. So he did this March 2nd. So this would be roughly, you have all of March, April, May, and June. So this is going to be 4 months later. They go on this trip to basically go to all the stops that he did. And their first stop, the gas station, contact was made in reference to Saldana stop. An attempt was made to receive video. However, the video was no longer available due to the amount of time. At approximately then 1400 hours, contact was made with the Gaffney Police Department in South Carolina. Zoom in for you guys. There you go. They advised the location of the truck was in the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Contact was made with the Cherokee. So they go ahead and they do all this, but then they realize that the blue Ford F-150 in question was located on the property. The Ford F-150 closely matched the suspect vehicle description, only it was lacking the toolbox. Okay. The Ford F-150 in question had a spare tire on the front passenger side. Several voice messages were left with Derek Elmore, the owner of the business. Then they talk about how they purchased it, and then they realized that it was determined this F-150 was not the suspect vehicle in question. Now, at approximately 1900 hours, Detective B. Burrell and I arrived in Clinton, North Carolina. Saldana arrived at this location on 303. And they were, while in Clinton, he visited a Walmart, a McDonald's, and a Ruby Tuesdays. How do they know that? My guess is bank records. But they also, did they put a tracker on his vehicle? I believe that they did. It should be noted, no financial transactions have been located for a hotel the night of 3/3/2022. So they're saying that he would have stayed with somebody. In Clinton. Or at least close to it. At approximately 1950 hours, contact was made with the loss prevention representative. Again, their system, massive error 2 weeks prior, and that caused loss. But 2 cameras to be interrupted. The video provided. Saldana is seen purchasing various toiletries to include body wash. Maybe he just slept in his car. Anyways, again, no hotel, but then he's seen being, buying body wash. The following day, Hearns reached out to the Walmart located in PA to inquire about possible video. Saldana visited this Walmart on 3/5. So he visited this Walmart on 3/4. Now he's at another Walmart on 3/5. At approximately 8:30 hours, Hearns advised the Walmart no longer had the videos. Then approximately 2015 hours, contact was made with Murphy's gas station, which is located on the property of the Clinton Walmart. Saldana made a transaction for what appears to be fuel. The manager advisors no video present. At approximately 20-30 hours, contact was made with Ruby Tuesdays. Ruby Tuesdays advised the business currently, the manager was able to provide a receipt of the transaction. While reviewing the receipt, it appears Saldana purchased 3 separate meals. The total transaction was $74.54. Okay. At approximately 8:30 in the morning on July 8th, contact was made. Again, Clinton Police Department in reference to this case. So Detective Cyber assisted them when they were there. Detective Seibert was informed of the general area where Saldana's phone was present throughout the day. So right here, they're admitting that they were able to use phone records, his historical data. So they were keeping tabs on him around the clock. Contact was made by the managers of Tropicana Supermarket, and food and video from 3-3 was unavailable. The managers were shown pictures of Saldana. Nobody could do anything about it. They did the McDonald's. There was no available video. Again, this was 4 months later. At approximately 11:30 hours, contact was made with the Sampson County Sheriff's Office. While researching Jorge Cruz, a local contact of Saldana's, it was discovered Cruz had an associate who currently lived in Clinton, North Carolina. This contact was identified as Angel. The current address listed, blah, blah, blah. Upon arrival, this vehicle was in the driveway and reportedly was this repair. Several attempts were made to contact, but no one came to the door. Surrounding properties were checked by the Sampson Sheriff. It appeared the resident was home, but no one would speak with detectives. At approximately 12:45, contact was made in reference to the contact, and approximately, so they finally were able to interview Cruz. This would be known as JC in documents at the state when they were providing discovery. So it says like interviewed by JC. That's what that means. Now, during this interview, so they were able to see, so Mario had a contact in this area. This is why they want to talk to this person. And this person extremely nervous and refused to walk outside. Once Cruz came to the door, he opened the solid door, but he refused to open the glass outer door. The entire conversation with Cruz took place through the glass door. Cruz seemed uneasy and would not make contact more than a brief moment. When asked if Cruz knew Mario, Cruz denied knowledge of Saldana. Cruz was asked again, and he was made aware of his contact through the cellular phone. Cruz again denied any knowledge of Saldana. Cruz was shown a picture of Saldana, and he stated he knew him as Mario Fernandez. So when he asked the first time, they said, "Do you know Mario Enrique Fernandez Saldana?" He denied that and said, "I know Mario Fernandez." Cruz was asked what the nature of his relationship was. He had met him online where they would play video games. Cannot make this shit up. Cruz stated Mario helped him purchase his current vehicle, which is a white 2008 Toyota Tundra. Big Tunda. You guys, when you see me rolling with my license plate that says Big Tunda, I want you to all throw your hands in the air and wave them around. Big Tunda. Just had to. Yeah. The Big Tunda in the house. There you go. Cruz cannot remember. So you don't know this guy. You met him from online, and then he helps you purchase a vehicle. Okay. Awesome. Cruz could not remember if the vehicle was purchased in South Georgia or North Florida. Cruz stated he had been to Saldana's house several times, but could not remember the time frames. Excuse me? I'm just going to invite over my video gaming buddies that I just met online, and I'm just going to help buy them cars. And I mean, just kind of whack, but whatever. Cruz was asked about Saldana's visit to Clinton, North Carolina, which took place. And Cruz stated that he did not meet Saldana while he was in Clinton, North Carolina. Cruz stated he was unable to see Saldana because of conflicts with his job. Cruz was further asked about the cell phone conversations between him and Saldana on 3-3. Cruz stated he does not remember what the two talked about because it was not important enough to recall. Now remember, he's asked 4 months later about this. 4 months later. So Cruz was further asked about the nature of Saldana's visit to Clinton, North Carolina. Cruz stated Saldana went out of town to do a send-off for the children's father because their family was not invited to the funeral. Cruz would go on to explain a conversation he overheard while the two were playing video games. Again, this is all hearsay. He stated he heard Saldana and Gardner discussing the police were at the house to talk about Gardner's ex-husband's murder. Cruz could not specify when the conversation took place. Cruz was further asked the time frame of this conversation. Cruz stated the conversation may have taken place the day after or a week after the murder. Cruz would go on to explain the last time he spoke with Saldana was a week prior to my contact with him. So like July 1st-ish. Cruz was asked if Saldana ever spoke about Jared Bradigan or issues Saldana had with Bradigan's family. Cruz stated he does not have that kind of relationship with Saldana. Cruz stated he and Saldana only play video games and share memes with each other. Cruz further advised he does not have any knowledge of the murder. Done. Okay. So, next up, Taylor Lees. Let's see why Taylor Lees is important. Again, remember, they're doing like this cross-half state trip. So, at approximately 16:45 hours, the interview with Lees was conducted at her residence located. This would be, I think, the ex-girlfriend. Yes. Lees advised she dated Saldana briefly while in college. But the two stayed in touch throughout the time. Lees would go to explain that she was not sure why Saldana left the military, but she believed he got kicked out. Lees would go on to explain that Saldana was very interesting during the time she knew him and dated him. She further explains that Saldana was funny, and I don't want to say manipulative. Lees advised Saldana seems more educated than he is. Lees was asked if she still communicated with him, and she advised that she does not. Lees stated that the last time she spoke with Saldana was in March. Lees stated she reached out to Saldana late in 2021 seeking advice on dealing with her stepchild. Lees would explain she knew Saldana had experience in dealing with these situations. Lees advised she communicated with Saldana by text and phone. So she was no longer in contact, and the last time, March of 2021. Lees advised Saldana described the interactions with Bradigan as difficult and not very easy. Saldana described a lot of arguing and fighting when dealing with Bradigan. Saldana described issues with the children's health and the disagreements which were had between the two families. Lees advised Saldana described Bradigan as a piece of work and frustrating to deal with. Lees was asked about her knowledge of the murder of Bradigan. Lees advised she did not know exactly when the murder took place. Lees advised she was contacted by Mario the day after the murder. The day after the murder. Lees was asked if she was still in communication with Saldana. She advised that she does not. Lees stated the last time that she spoke with Saldana was in March. March of what, this past year? But then it says, Lees stated she reached out to Saldana late in 2021 seeking advice with dealing with herself. I want to hear how that all goes. You're going to have to listen to the recording, but how this all went. Okay. Because if she's saying that the last time she heard about it was in March, that would make sense for this. But Lee's advised she was contacted by Mario the day after the murder. Saldana contacted Lees stating Bradigan was murdered the night prior in Jacksonville Beach. Saldana stated he did know who did it. What? Saldana stated he did know who did it. Lee stated her last. Is this mean like didn't? Is this another typo? Like, what does this mean? Lee stated her last communication with Saldana prior to the murder was several weeks prior. What? This is all in reverse order, guys. This is the most ridiculous way to write this report, but very important. Lee's explained she felt it was random Saldana contacted her about the murder. Lee's was asked about Saldana's trip to North Carolina, which took place. And she says, Lee's advised she did not know Saldana was in North Carolina, and he did not contact her during that time. Very interesting to me. Lee stated she did not know anyone currently living in North Carolina who Saldana would be meeting with. Lee's advised an individual named Pedro. Everybody knows a Pedro. Possibly lived there in the area. Lee's provided an Instagram. Go ahead, check it out. Lee's would go on to explain that she never knew Saldana to be violent. Lee's described Saldana as being aggressive due to his time as a drill sergeant. Lee's advised she has never seen Saldana act aggressively or violently in public. Lee's described Saldana as thinking very highly of himself and very narcissistic. Lee's was asked about Saldana's current relationship with Gardner. Lee's advised it appeared Saldana felt his marriage with Gardner was ending. Lee's felt that Saldana was angling to see if she was interested in a relationship with him. Saldana made statements that his marriage had run its course. Lee's advised Saldana spoke about the divorce as if it was his idea. Saldana states to Lee's that he has done his time. The fuck does that mean? Lee would go on to explain that Saldana mentioned he worked out a contract through Gardner's family to marry her. Saldana mentioned this contract in early 2021. Lee speculated Saldana was providing protection from Gardner's ex-husband. Lee's advised Saldana would never explain this contract in detail. Meet your next state witness. Taylor Lees. Come on down. Lees would go to explain she did not feel like Saldana would be capable of murdering Bradigan. Lees described Saldana as someone who talks a big game but never acted on anything. Remember that bark and bite? Lees advised she never heard Saldana make any threats towards Bradigan. It should be noted, once the interview ended, Lees advised Saldana described the murder of Bradigan as a hit and run. This was said when Saldana called her on 2/16/2022, a hit and run. Now, they want to make that this is a note to be like, they want to point that out, that that's the hit and run. Well, isn't that what it would be called, a hit and run? What would you call it? So there you go. Meet your next witness for the state. Now, these are the officers that are driving around, and they're on this trip to find out where Mario Saldana went. Okay, so going through this is where we get to the goods of how we're going to start getting onto Henry Teenan. On Monday, July 18th, 2022, at approximately 14:55 hours, they met with Jeremy Ordway. So he will be known as J.O., and that's how he is known at in all the discoveries. It's J.O. So J.O. Now, they met with him again. July 18th was the first time that they met with him. They went to this address, 5239 Potomac Avenue, which is a residence that Mario owned. The only vehicle parked at the residence was an older model red Toyota displaying Florida license plates, which I took picture of prior to Detective Lamont making contact with J.O. So while Detective Lamont interviewed J.O. near the front door of the residence, I was standing nearby in the driveway. This is very, very important, this interview. So what's interesting to me here is okay. So on Wednesday, July 8th was when they were in North Carolina talking to that Taylor Lees, okay, and Cruz. And then have here July 18th. So 10 days later. So approximately 5 minutes later, and while J.O. was talking to Detective Lamont, an older black male driving a white, older model four-door Ford Crown Victoria with Florida license plates backed into the driveway. J.O. identified the male as Henry Tenon. That's the first time that his name is brought to anybody's attention, July 18th, in a report. This is so important. July 18th. So, continued his interview with Tenon got out of his car, got a metal bowl out of the trunk, filled it up with water, and set it on the ground near what appeared to be a truck tire, specifically a BF Goodrich Advantage TA Sport LT size 265 60R18. It was just leaned up against the corner of the house. So up against the corner of this house, July 18th, the murder, January 29th to now July 18th. All this time, and then boom, here's this tire. All that time would pass. And then this tire's leaning up against the corner of the house. There was no truck in the driveway and did not see any other tires in the area. I knew Detective Lamont may have went to speak with Tenon and spoke briefly with Tenon on unrelated matters while waiting for J.O. and Detective Lamont to finish speaking. This doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, after Detective Lamont finished talking with J.O., Detective Lamont interviewed Henry. Following the interview, I asked J.O. about the tire. So what they do here is then there's going to be more, because this is just this guy, because he didn't interview, this is just, we're going to get to this in a different report. So now we're moving on to, this is just Lamont talking about what he's seeing. And now we're going to talk about Lamont. He's about to talk to J.O. J.O. said that the tire did not belong to him, and he said he found it in the front of his house by the curb. Okay? Think about this. He said, while pointing to the grassy area of the driveway, he did not say as to when or why he brought it up to the house. This is absolutely crazy, if you ask me. But hey, I'm just a conspiracy theorist over here. No, motherfuckers, I just say, what the fuck? All right, so let's take a look. Now, so I asked if he wanted the tire or wanted me to dispose of it for him, to which he said I could take the tire. So this officer says, hey, gets him to start talking about this tire, okay? And he gets it out of him that tire did not belong to him, and he said he found it in front of his house by the curb. Said while pointing the grassy area by his driveway. He did not say as to when or why he brought it up from the roadway to his house. Now, I asked if he wanted the tire or wanted me to dispose of it for him, to which he said I could take the tire. That is how they obtained this tire. That technically wasn't his. Okay? I loaded the tire into the bed of my police vehicle. Detective Lamont and I returned to police headquarters, located at 101 South Penman Road, where I took digital photographs of the tire and placed it into the property room as evidence. Now, on Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, 3 days later, Detective Lamont and I went over to the property room and compared the two tires. 3 days later. Don't you think that would be like something you'd be like, had a hard on for? Like, where'd you put the tire? So I returned to police headquarters located. I took digital photographs of the tire and placed it into the property room as evidence. Okay. I would have such a hard on for that fucking tire and to see if it would match, but they wait 3 days later to see if this tire matches. So they compared the two tires, noting that both the dot numbers AP82T11, along with the date of manufacture 4718, well, AP82T11. Where do they? BF Goodrich Advantage T Sport size 265 60 R18. Oopsies. AP80. Where do you see that here? AP80. Look at it, says specifically a BF Goodrich Advantage TA Sport LT size 265 60 R18. $265 rather. 60 R18. Then noting that the dot, both the dot, noting that the dot numbers AP80 T2T11 along with the date of manufacture 4718, which labels the tires being manufactured in the 47th week of 2018. Both tires appear to match each other. Well, I don't see that. The way that they're describing this, 60 R18 right here. Check this out. Goodrich. What does this say? Instant report. GF Goodrich tire, GF Goodrich Sport. Because when I go to compare it here, it's saying that media list report. So on this date, when they took this on 7/18, they're listing it as 265 60 R18. So then if we go back and take a look, they're saying that this is matching it. But So anyways, we'll come back to all of that. Both tires appear to match each other. Detective Lamont and I repackaged the original tire seized from the scene, packaged the second tire taken from, and placed both back into property. Let me just... Interesting. All right. Now, one's the tire size, the other is the dot manufacturer number. Yeah, I'm just surprised that they wouldn't have put both. So I want to go back and check that with the other one. I mean, I'm sure it's right. But thank you. Now, here we go. The other thing that's interesting to me is that they say that they did this on Tuesday, July 19th. And if you come here and you look at the reports, it's saying that they did this on July 18th. Actually, they did it. I apologize. On Monday, July 18th, they went and did the interview. They got the tire. They put the tire into evidence. Then on the 19th, okay, the day after. Good. So they only waited. It was just the next day. What was on the 16th? Oh, that was my fault then. Hold on. Okay, this was on the 18th. So I corrected that. That was my fault. All right, moving on. Again, they're going to talk to J.O. again. But this is from the interview that the guy just witnessed. So now this is like the actual interview. So J.O. began by saying that he moved into this residence in February after living the house next door. So February was right after the murder. The murder was, okay, wait, no. February was actually the murder. I was giving you the date of Karen Reed's murder. That'd be the same month. Again, J.O. advised he's been living in the previous address for 2.5 years. J.O. explained he knew Saldana from interactions at the current address. When J.O. had to leave, he reached out to Saldana about living at 5239 Potomac Avenue. Again, he was advised that they were conducting interviews with people associated with Jared Bridegan. While J.O. does not directly know the Bridegan. Really, I mean, who writes this? He is currently a tenant of Saldana's, who is directly associated with Bridegan. So when J.O. had to leave, his other place, he reached out and asked if he could rent out this address. That's where he was now. J.O. advised that the previous tenant was an individual named Henry, who was later identified as Henry Teenan. Tenon, however you want to say it. J.O. stated Tenon lived at this residence a long time and had his own police issues. J.O. would go on to explain he has known Saldana for a couple of years. J.O. advised Saldana has recently sold this residence and he has until December 1st to vacate the residence. J.O. advised Saldana came by a week ago. J.O. would go on to explain he does not talk to Saldana other than paying him his rent. It should be noted Saldana and J.O. have extensive contacts present in phone records. So this guy's saying he barely talks to him, and the police want us to know, though, that, hey, he can say that all he wants. They're on the phone a lot. They have a lot of contact. Okay. J.O. was asked if Saldana has a maintenance person who works on the house. J.O. advises he conducts repairs around the house to supplement his rent payments. J.O. advised he has no other individuals living in the residence with him other than friends staying from time to time. Also, with Saldana stopping by a week before the cops get there, they're going to, I believe, assimilate that tire being to Saldana when he was there that week prior to. This is one of the state's star witnesses, by the way. While interviewing J.O., Henry pulled into the driveway. J.O. advised Saldana does not speak to him about his personal life. J.O. advised he does not talk to Saldana other than when he needs building supplies to work on the house. At the end of the interview. Then, again, now this would be on July 19th. So they went out there on the 18th. Now they're back out there. Like I said, this was on the 19th. And on the 19th is when they talked to, here you go, Henry, on the 19th. At approximately 1500 hours, the interview with Tenon was conducted. Tenon was advised the interview was being audio recorded. He advised that he does not directly know the bride again. He is currently a tenant of Saldana's who is directly associated with Brian. Henry would go on to explain he has known Saldana for 4 years. Okay? 4 years. So you're talking like 2018, 2022, 2017, something like that. Tenant advised he found the property due to a female renting her room to him. Henry advised he would pay cash and Mario would come to the property to get the payment. He would pay cash. Henry was advised if anyone would come by the house with Saldana during these times, he was asked rather. And Henry advised occasionally a female would accompany Saldana, but he did not know who she was. He did not know who she was. Henry would go on to explain that Saldana would only come by the property when there was an issue or to collect rent. Henry advised an individual named John or Joseph would come by to conduct maintenance on the house. Henry would later confirm the name was John. Now we're going to get into who do we think this is? Ding, ding, ding. John Biggerstaff? Is that what I'm sensing here? Maybe. Henry described John as a chunky white guy with a bum knee. A bum knee's doing your maintenance. So Henry would further describe John as being bald with a thin mustache. Henry stated John came by 3 times while he lived at this address. 3 times. Henry advised John drove a white Chevy Sierra. A white Chevy Sierra. Henry would go on to explain he is no longer in communication with Saldana. Henry stated the last time he spoke with Saldana was in May. Henry advised he came to visit J.O. in May, and he saw him briefly. So he came over to see J.O. at his place. And then when he was there, that he happened to run into him. This is what it's saying. Henry would go on to describe Saldana as constantly being in a rush and would never stay very long. Henry would go to explain Saldana was never violent or aggressive in his presence. End of the interview. Once the interview was with Henry was completed, Detective Burrell noticed what appeared to be a BF Goodrich tire, or truck tire, leaning against the garage. Detective Burrell spoke with J.O. about the tire and collected it. The interaction with J.O. is documented in his supplement. Okay, now, this is where we got some issues. I think they must have meant to write Monday, July 18th, okay, for this. Because Monday, July 19th is Tuesday. Monday, July 18th. And they're saying that this interview, remember how I told you, like that day, the other guy was talking to him, and that's what this, then he's talking about this. That's how they collected it. So this 100% is the wrong day. But it's like, how do you fuck that up? Okay. Now this is what's crazy. Ready? The part that's not recorded is right here. Once the interview was completed, all of this stuff that would matter, noticing the tire, what appeared to be this tire, and leaning up against the garage and asking for permission to have it and collect it, this interaction with Orwell is documented in his supplement. It's documented in his supplement, but it's not recorded. You understand that? This is not on any recording device. So there is no record of it on recording device, is my understanding from me doing my dissection with this. Is that, yeah, it's documented in here, but you notice how he says end of interview? Once the interview was completed, okay, this is what took place. So my question is was this documented? When he asks him if he can have that tire. See? After finished talking with interviewed, following the interview, I asked Earl about the tire. See, I asked Earl about the tire. See, I don't believe that any of this is recorded. And so if that's the case, I think that that's just fucking crazy. Absolute crazy. I mean, how come it always turns out that when you, the most important pieces of evidences are, like how, if that's something that you, I mean, you were eyeing it from the beginning, but then you're going to shut off everything and then talk about this tire and then take this tire and seize it. But that's not going to be on any that's not going to be recorded, but everything else that you're doing is being recorded. It just looks bad. Okay. It just completely looks bad. Okay. And I'll tell you why it looks bad, because you want me to believe that this tire, not only does February go by, February, March, April, May, June, and now half of July. So you got 5.5, 6 months, and you're telling me that this tire would still be floating around, and here it winds up to be on the lawn / up against the house that you happen to go to that day to interview somebody. You want me to believe all of this, right? Yeah, sure. That sounds good. I just hope this is recorded, but it doesn't look like it was. And that's where I'm going to stop, because then we start getting into, they're honing in now. And I'm going to start again with the first time of meeting Henry, but this is the guy that they've arrested and said he admitted to being a paid killer. Right here. This guy. This is the first that you hear about him. Henry. July 18th. So there it is. We will pick up from Henry. Thank you guys for joining. Again, this is to have you guys all up to speed so that you guys know the case, because we will be covering this. This is Jose Baez's case with Gardner. Again, I believe in innocent until proven guilty. And right now we're in a phase where there's a lot of controversy with a lot of discovery. I mean, in this case, guys, they had wiretappings. They had trackers on people's cars. Like, I want to know, I like to learn too. So I want to know the legality on, hey, boom, I can just slap a tracker on my car or your car, or, I'm a firm believer in, like, okay, you got a search warrant or you got a subpoena. Okay. Who approved this? How did you get it? How did this all happen? We just got to keep everybody on their toes, because we all have rights, because at the end of the day, it may not be, this case or another case, but nobody's rights should ever be violated for wrongful accusations, wrongful convictions. 2 days ago, a guy was murdered, AKA by the state of Texas. He was lethally injected. And I'm going to cover that case because I actually believe in his innocence, Ivan Cantu. So it's wild. And a great podcast is out there on it, and I'll talk more about that later on today. But I'm having a marathon, so join me. I'm going to be talking about the Delphi case, so just come on over there if you want to hear about the Delphi homicides. Justice for two girls. Ask them all about those trucks, man. Ask them about, we're looking at Ford, like an Expedition. Also look for like a Ford Expedition. Even though I think it's a Ford truck. But again, I have great information on the Brian Drake case as well. I got so much stuff over here. It's nice to have my health back, though. So come on, join me over there at Delphi. Thank you guys so much. See you soon. Peace.